What's going on, everybody? I'm Primal Liquid, and well, we have some news. Now, granted, it is a little bit iffy, so to speak, because we do have a rumor for Final Fantasy XVI. Yes, I know, another rumor, so do take everything you guys hear in this video with a pinch of salt. Now, obviously, it has been quite a while since we got the last main numbered title, FF. 4 years, in fact, since we got Final Fantasy XV. However, even though they did release the Final Fantasy VII Remake, we know that that wasn't the usual team who worked on that. Now, let us take a look at the actual news that has come out today, which may actually suggest that not only is Final Fantasy XVI coming, it's going to be here sooner than we think, and we will have an announcement very, very soon for it. But let's jump into it, shall we? So, the article I have here is from Metro, and even though Metro, I mean, they get some stuff right, but we'll sort of just ignore that for a moment. But obviously, again, do take everything in this video with a pinch of salt. So, let's jump into the actual article, shall we? So, Final Fantasy XVI is PS5 timed exclusive and closer than you'd think, claims Insider. So, obviously, pinch of salt, guys, come on. I'm going to say hundreds of times throughout this video, but it's just a rumor, so do not take anything in here as fact. Even though the quote-unquote leaker is actually... he does have a bit of a good track record that we can sort of go by. So again, pinch of salt, but it's possible. So let's look at it, shall we? The first rumours about Final Fantasy XVI are beginning to emerge and suggest that the game may be revealed this month. The first part of Final Fantasy VII Remake may have only come out this year, but it's 4 years now since the release of Final Fantasy XV. And that's around the time you'd expect to start hearing about the next mainline entry, especially with next gen just around the corner. Now, this is kind of true. 4 years is... you know, it's a bit on the longer side between sequels, but again, it is a decent margin. However, we all know that Square Enix does not really conform to their usual timelines. I mean, just look at the distance between Final Fantasy XII and Final Fantasy XIII. That was quite a while. And then, obviously, we had the 13 to the 15 jump. But, I mean, obviously, that was just 15 going through literal development hell. So, again, I wouldn't really trust into this. It's been 4 years, so we'll do one. You know, I mean, that's not really how it works, especially with Square Enix. Anyway, there's been nothing official yet, but a so far reliable poster on the Reset Era forum, never heard of this forum before, has suggested that not only is the game a timed PlayStation exclusive, but it's closer than most people would think. Now, this is where we get the good stuff. 16 is real, wrote insider Novtra. It was supposed to get announced in June's event. It's supposedly closer than most people would think. It has some kind of PS5 exclusivity. It was vague back then, but it seems to be full timed exclusivity now. And I have no idea why they haven't announced it yet. Novtra's biggest claim to fame so far is predicting almost everything in the PlayStation 5 reveal event accurately, including unexpected titles like Sackboy: A Big Adventure, a new Ratchet & Clank, and a new IP from Square Enix, which turned out to be Project Athia. They also predicted this week's announcement about Spider-Man being exclusive to the PlayStation version of Marvel's Avengers, which also came out of the blue. What they got wrong, though, ironically, was that Final Fantasy XVI would be revealed in June during the PlayStation 5 showcase. Although, to be fair, games do often get pulled from these sort of things at the last minute. Now, this right here is very, very, very true. Games do get pulled last minute. It's happened quite a few times over the years, and we've even seen devs themselves come out and admit, like, they were going to show a trailer at such and such time, but they pulled it last minute due to polishing and things like that. Like, there can be any number of reasons why a game was not shown when it was supposed to be. However, Navtrad does actually have a good track record. Before the PS5 was revealed and things like that, I was following his leaks myself, and yes, they did turn out to be pretty much like one for one true. The only thing he did get wrong was Final Fantasy XVI, which is, you know, it's a big shame. But again, he does have a track record, and given that he seems to be based, you know, solely on predicting PlayStation stuff, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's somehow connected to Sony or somewhere in that region. Now, there are a few things about this that we can actually touch on though. First of all, it says that it should have originally been shown during the original PS5 reveal. Now, again, there could have been something wrong and they might have wanted to polish the trailer or something like that. That is a pretty good reason for not showing the trailer. Now, they are saying that we should be seeing the trailer, like the announcement trailer, this month. Now, if you don't know, PlayStation 5 does have another event this month, showing off some of the more games and a few other things like that. However, I'm not convinced we're going to see it during that event. Now, Square Enix is obviously a Japanese company, and given the, well, trouble, let's just say, we've had this year with coronavirus and things like that, pretty much the largest place to reveal games is E3. E3 was cancelled and Square Enix did not put on their own show in place of it. Now, when you look at things like that, the second biggest event that will happen with relation to games, especially a Japanese company, is Tokyo Game Show. Now, for me, that seems like the more likely date that we're actually going to see information about a new Final Fantasy. It's their home country. They love releasing new info at TGS instead of like the PlayStation event, for example. So again, it is entirely possible. Also, the timed exclusivity is a little bit interesting for me. Now, obviously Final Fantasy has predominantly been PlayStation. They have recently been bringing out the other titles across different platforms like Xbox and Switch, like the remasters, but ultimately it's still PlayStation that gets everything first. Now, that does sound pretty normal for a Final Fantasy, but moving on into next gen, we've got PC, Xbox, PS5, and, well, I mean, Switch would be a little iffy, just because of the Switch having nowhere near as much hardware capacity as current gen and next gen consoles. And obviously, Final Fantasy, the main numbered titles, do absolutely love pushing the board on things like graphics, gameplay, new ideas, and things like that. So I'm not expecting anything for the Switch for this, but I do think moving on into next gen, it's a little weird that they're going to still keep like the Sony exclusivity. It's possible, mind you, but I mean, we'll just have to see what goes on. But again, I would honestly say it's more than likely going to be TGS before we get any form of news. I could be wrong. They could release a new trailer for the PS5, but again, I think TGS is the more likely option, just given Square's past track record with the event itself. And moving on for the finisher, we have Square Enix did not host an E3 replacement event. Well, I mean, that's just what I've mentioned. But it has said that it will make a number of new announcements between July and August. Now, that does line up with the PS5's next event, which is this month. At the time, that was assumed to mean one of their own events, but especially in the case of Final Fantasy XVI, that could refer to the second PlayStation 5 showcase that's expected sometime this month. Right, now, again, I don't think it's going to be the PS5 event. For example, they have a number of new announcements. Now, they have just actually allowed a couple of press people in to play the Avengers beta, so I mean, that could be one of the new announcements. It could be more Avengers announcements in general. It could be Final Fantasy XIV announcements, which I kind of doubt, because that would definitely be more of a TGS thing. It could be new IPs, more info on Project Athia, or just generally things like that. I don't think a company as large as Square Enix would make an announcement on, like, a series as big as Final Fantasy without some sort of really, really large audience. So they definitely wouldn't do their own personal event, because it just wouldn't generate as much traction as places like E3, TGS, PS5 reveal events, and things like that. So again, take everything in this article with a pinch of salt. Obviously, you know what I mean, there's not really a whole lot of info, just a rumor that an announcement is coming. But again, I wouldn't put my money on it being shown during the PS5 reveal event. But hey, hopefully I'll be proven wrong and we'll get a trailer sooner than I thought. One thing I would like to say though is I really, really hope the rumors that Yoshi P is actually directing. If you don't know, Yoshi P is pretty much the person who saved Final Fantasy XIV from complete and utter doom, and he's shown over the years of Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, Stormblood, and Shadowbringers that he really knows what the audience and fans want in games. He takes all criticism, he takes all feedback and things like that, and he does incorporate it really, really well. He's got a really strong track record of that shows just over like the sales and the performance of Final Fantasy XIV. So if he is actually the director for 16, I'm expecting great things from it. I mean, obviously 15 was just a complete and utter bombshell. So hopefully we won't have another repeat of that, and we will actually go back to having an excellent numbered main title. But time will tell. Anyway though guys, that's going to be the end of this video. Make sure you guys leave a comment down below and let me know what you guys think is more likely to happen with the 16 reveal, and of course what you want to see the most from it. As always though everybody, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon.